Everyone, and welcome to the Power 2 live on the College Football Addiction YouTube channel. I'm Tom Hannifan. He's Cole Thompson.
We killed TJ Pittinger.
TJ Pittinger will be joining us a little bit.
No, he won't. He's dead.
He quit the business at the end of the day. He's just sick of Mike Norvell that much. We are going to be covering a variety of things today. The Tennessee Volunteers, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the top 10 coaches in college football, at least entering 2026. This Chandler Morris lawsuit that's developed, the University of Virginia quarterback, and some of the information surrounding Cam Coleman signing with the Texas Longhorns. We encourage all of you that might be watching this on X to head on over to YouTube, because that's where you subscribe. That's where you turn on notifications. Like us, repost us, retweet us, all that sort of stuff. We appreciate it very much. But use your thumb and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it very much.
Takes literally 2 seconds. That's all we're asking you to do. Like, hi, hit the sub button. Cool. Look at that. I'm now going to be locked into every single stupid thing that Cole and Tom say.
We say a lot of stupid stuff on this show. It's fantastic.
Well, we are the best show that has ever existed because you are representing the best conference that ever existed in the world of college football.
Thank you. And I just found out our tech, Steve, is a Penn State student currently. So you're outnumbered 2-1.
What the hell, man? Why did we have someone neutral here? That's all I'm asking.
No.
Well, get the Virginia Tech kid to come on in. We like Nate.
We want to reestablish Virginia Tech here.
We like Nate. Nate's fine. Nate's a good.
Let's get started with what's going on with the Tennessee Volunteers. The headline, obviously, from this past weekend is that starting quarterback from 2025, quarterback Joey Aguilar, had applied for another year of eligibility, tried to take this to court, and he was denied. So now there's a major question mark with Tennessee football for this upcoming season of what they do at quarterback. And Aguilar is still trying to appeal this, it sounds like, and there's so many quarterbacks, and we'll get to Morris trying to get a 7th year, I believe Aguilar trying to get a 6th year, and his JUCO argument, that sort of thing. So the first question, I think, with Tennessee, Cole, is what do they do at quarterback, and how big of a drop-off could they potentially see from Aguilar to whoever is the guy in 26?
Well, I think we can just start off with the second question. It's a big drop-off. You don't know what you're getting in George McIntyre or Faison Brandon, two really good prospects. But again, there's the clue word, prospects. They are unknown. They are very much going to have to embrace the role of taking on reps with the first-team offense, where you didn't have to worry about that with Joey Aguilar. And we talked about with the Trinidad Chambliss effect, the 2-win theory. I think Joey Aguilar falls somewhat in that same conversation. Veteran quarterback returning for another year in the same system. And keep in mind, Tom, this was the dude that led the SEC in passing yards, where he got onto campus late. I mean, he was learning the ins and outs of Josh Heupel's intricate offense throughout the regular season. And yet still he was able to guide Tennessee to nearly a big win over Georgia, big-time games in overtime against Mississippi State, an 8-4 record, and who knows what they would have been this upcoming season. They fixed the defense by bringing in Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles goes out and brings in his guys to kind of steer the ship in the right direction, and their schedule is very manageable with a veteran quarterback, not to mention they have stability in the running back room and at wide receiver. So continuity would have been such a big-time deal, I think, for this offense. And then you throw in the fact that your defense is going to be revamped. Tennessee was a sleeper for me to go to the college football playoff. I could have seen a 10-win campaign. I could have seen more growth and more continuity coming on back in. It doesn't mean they can't get there with McIntyre or Brandon. It just means that now it's all uncertain. But the good news is that you have Josh Heupel as your head coach. This is now going to be his 6th straight year of having a new QB1 breaking camp. And remember, Joe Milton was QB1, and then it went to the next season, Hendon Hooker, to back to Joe Milton. So he's only had 5 quarterbacks, but still, he's been able to work with different quarterbacks and get them to their peak. My only question is, can you do it with guys without proven experience? Nico Iamaleava, you saw the trials and the tribulations his first year. At least with Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton, they had experience playing. So it's going to be a really interesting storyline to follow. This, to me, is going to be the camp to watch for in the SEC. Because I think with Alabama, you could say to yourself, they can get to 9-3 with adequate quarterback play. Do you feel that way about Tennessee, knowing what question marks were in the roster going into the year?
Feels like Alabama's got better options and maybe a little bit more depth, maybe more potential and ability overall at the quarterback position than Tennessee at this point. Sure. Alabama is on the schedule for Tennessee. Taking a quick glance at who the Volunteers are going to be playing this year, they open against the juggernauts known as Furman. They're at Georgia Tech, against Kennesaw State at home, You've got Texas at home on your schedule early in the season. You're home against Auburn, at Arkansas versus the aforementioned Crimson Tide at home, at South Carolina, home versus Kentucky, at Texas A&M, home against LSU, back-to-back games, and then at Vanderbilt in Nashville to end the season. So it would have been a manageable schedule had you had a veteran quarterback there, but listing off Texas, Alabama, Texas A&M, and LSU, I'm not saying you lock those in as losses, but they look pretty daunting at this point.
They're not losses, but they are, is now they're toss-ups if you don't have everything going your way. With Texas, the Texas game is a guarantee, in my opinion, a loss as of right now. The other three games, again, you're lucky because of they all had their own question marks, but still, don't you want to make sure that you cross off every box as much as possible? With the Joey Aguilar returning, he already has a relationship with Braylon Staley. He already has a relationship with Mike Matthews. He already knows how to work in a running back room with Deshaun Bishop. He's a mobile quarterback that fits a lot of the criteria of what you want to be able to keep the offense humming. And then with the new offensive line, I mean, yeah, you lose some pieces. No more Lance Hurd at left tackle. Maybe you decide to move on over maybe you decide to move on over David Sanders from the right side. Who's to say? But still, like, the offense is enough of a priority to where it wasn't going to be a concern for you. It never should be because Josh Heupel is a guru when it comes to that stuff. But it does leave a question mark at the most important position. And most of the time, you're make or break based off of your quarterback play. You look at Trinidad Chambliss down at Ole Miss. Part of the reason why we believe that the Rebels could repeat their success without Lane Kiffin is because of who's leading the charge. You look at Lane Kiffin down at LSU. Part of the reason we believe that they can have some success is because of who they brought in at quarterback. Same thing for Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. Same thing for Arch Manning at Texas. Stability and veteranship at that spot is dire. And it's not to say that, again, Faison Brandon and George McIntyre can't be special. They very well could end up being the big breakout stars of the SEC this year. But it's an unknown. Where I have a known commodity, I feel more comfortable looking at that team. And that's just kind of where we are with Tennessee. It's an unknown defensively. It's an unknown at your quarterback spot. And now what felt like maybe a sleeper 10-2 season, more like probably an 8-4 year. And the crazy part is that Tom, 8-4 doesn't cut it in Knoxville. And a lot of people will say, yeah, well, it should. I mean, it's Tennessee. And then I have to remind everybody, no, it's Tennessee. And once upon a time, they were the juggernauts of the Southeastern Conference. They were the team to beat. They were the one that everybody was chasing. And fans want to get back to that level out in Neyland Stadium. And fans believe that they have the enigma and the identity to build that type of rapport. They're just not there right now.
If Heupel doesn't at least get to 8-4, I mean, it feels like he's already on the hot seat in Knoxville. And especially last year, you didn't beat a team with a winning record. So I think that is sticking in the craw of a lot of Volunteer fans. I want to touch on this because you mentioned the defense. Is it possible that new defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, coming from formerly Oklahoma State, Ohio State, a national championship, and an ill-fated season at Penn State last year, bringing two marquee dudes with him in defensive end Chaz Coleman and linebacker Amari Campbell, is it possible that Tennessee's defense is better than its offense in 2026?
How quickly does the defense adapt? I mean, you know, this is
always the question with Knowles.
Yeah. You're a Penn State fan. You got to see it up close. Like, imagine what Penn State's defense would have been next season if you don't fire James Franklin and you keep Jim Knowles. Are we talking about the number one defense in college football? Because you got to remind yourself, the defense was good in year one for Jim Knowles at Ohio State. It was great in year two. It was good in year one at Oklahoma State. It was elite in year two. So one of the major caveats that you have whenever you hire Jim Knowles is the first season you lay down the foundation, the groundwork is in play, and it's really promising. Year two is where you're off to the races. It's hard to believe that your defense is going to be ahead of your offense simply because of just that factor. You run a 3-safety set. Now, I love the fact they went and they brought in Quam Moss, who was from Kansas State. That is a rangy player that can pair well with the other two defensive backs you brought in from Penn State over to Tennessee. And you do have stability in your trenches because the beauty of what I thought Jim Knowles did was he brought a player in at every position to kind of be like that leader in the locker room. Amari Campbell, Guillory, the defensive tackle, Chaz Coleman, the defensive end. So there's somebody who already has an understanding about what he looks for in his defensive system. But just because you have somebody that you know is going to fit the criteria, it doesn't mean they're going to hit off the ground running immediately. So It'll be interesting. I mean, again, you look at what we've witnessed for a defense, I mean, for an offense underneath Josh Heupel, it always seems to be at least a poignant part, a really solid roster top to bottom. But you do wonder what are the question marks moving forward. That's kind of where I'm at, is that the quarterback play, if it was with Joey Aguilar, would have been so stable. Your defense could have had some time to adjust. And maybe again, you finish instead of 78th in the in college football, you finish 32nd.
Right.
32nd's a damn good is a damn good move up. And it shows that you made the right decision to fire Tim Banks and go get, in my opinion, one of, if not the best defensive coordinator in the sport. And just straight defense coordinator. Not defensive play caller, just a guy who is meant to be a coordinator. Maybe it would have shown that. But the thing is that finishing 32nd in defense and on a 40th in scoring, it's a good starting point. It may not be good enough with where this offense is and the question marks to be able to lead you to a college football playoff appearance.
Moving from the SEC to the greatest conference in college football.
Oh, God, here we go.
Talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ironically, we were just talking about Jim Knowles, former defensive coordinator for the Buckeyes a few years ago, guiding that team to a national championship. Ironically, the man that replaced him, Matt Patricia, came in last year, did an outstanding job. Obviously, he had a fantastic roster to work with. The athletes like Reese and Downs and the defensive line play, like that defense was outstanding for Ohio State. Obviously, just couldn't get them further into the playoff. But Matt Patricia has received an extension for 3 years, and the belief is that he is now the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football, eclipsing Jim Knowles. I believe that's the rumor that's out there. I don't know if it's been disclosed, but that is a significant extension and a significant move there by Ohio State. And it's kind of like, whose line is it anyway when it comes to the years added to a contract, Cole? You know that very well. They don't really matter, but it's the dollar and it's the trust that they have in Matt Patricia. Going into this season, do you see more questions on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball for Ohio State?
I have to go de facto offense, which feels weird because if I don't have questions on either side of the ball, if I'm being completely honest. Like, Ohio State is probably the most complete team in college football based off what we know outside of maybe Notre Dame. And even Notre Dame, the questions that are there can be fixed almost immediately because you're not replacing the most important position, which is quarterback. And you're also not replacing the most important position on the offensive side for Ohio State, which is quarterback. But still, I mean, we got to tip our cap a little bit, I think, to Matt Patricia. Like, I did not believe that the pencil pusher was going to be able to work in Columbus. I just didn't, because I had such a bad taste in my mouth from his time at the NFL level that there was no way that Ryan Day was going to be able to make a hire that made so much sense. I couldn't buy into that. And I get it. But here's the funny thing, Tom. Like, they got better. It's crazy to think that a national championship team that relied so heavily on its defense with guys like Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimalau and what you had in the secondary that lost a lot of players to the NFL would take a step forward. But they did. Ohio State in 2024 was number one in the country at 12.9 points per game. They gave up 9.3 points per game underneath Matt Patricia. In 2024, they had the number one total defense, 254.6 yards allowed per game. 219.6 yards allowed per game underneath Matt Patricia, with a lot of new pieces, a lot of veterans coming on back in like Sonny Styles, but still a lot of new pieces in the secondary, a lot of new pieces on the defensive line, at defensive end. You're bringing in a guy like Bo Atkinson to be your new pass rusher, and you get better. I mean, like, at this point, it feels like that because of the level of talent that you constantly are bringing on in at defensive end, at defensive tackle, the way you're developing with your position coaches, as long as you have a competent play caller that knows the ins and outs of how to run defense, you're going to be fine on that side of the ball. Where on the offensive side, it's no longer going to be Brian Hartline running the show. It'll be Arthur Smith. So because of you don't have a Carnell Tate at wide receiver, or maybe it's because of you lose a little bit of depth when it comes to the interior of your offensive line, questions like that you can ponder. Yeah, what am I going to do with this offense? You don't have Max Clare at tight end anymore. I wonder about that, but even still, the wondering is, what is the offensive concept going to be? It's not based off of what is your personnel going to look like.
I'm curious to see if they can fix the run game. And that's been years now. I feel like watching Ohio State, you're always excited about the talent and the athletes they put on the field. Obviously, the two-headed monster of Judkins and Henderson was incredible. But last year, Bo Jackson was still a 1,000-yard rusher, but it just didn't feel like it necessarily watching Ohio State. They were very comfortable throwing the football. And if you were able to take away the run, they almost didn't care. They were just comfortable doing that because of all the weapons you just pointed out. But with Tate and Claire off to the National Football League, there's guys who have to step up behind Jeremiah Smith, and it can't just be a one-man band. I think the interesting thing about this season is going to be the development of Julian Sayin. Is he able to, one, fill out a little bit more? Two, has the experience helped him in terms of making it into the playoff and being under fire against that Miami defense, one of the best in the country last year? Did he learn enough in year one as the full-time starter to get his sea legs underneath him and be a reason why Ohio State can win in those pressure situations? Not to say that he was the reason that they lost games to Indiana in the Big Ten championship game or to Miami in the playoff, but certainly his play didn't help in the grand scheme of things. You add in Arthur Smith, who many NFL fans have beleaguered for years. Does that mix a quarterback who's trying to progress and an offensive coordinator who's kind of trying to reinvent himself?
I don't know. I mean, look, you had a really sloppy game against Texas. It was your first game as a full-time starting quarterback, if you were Julian Sayin. It's not really going to be that big of a deal. And then your other two games where it was close were the two losses to Indiana, 13-10, and Miami. And in the Miami game, again, you went up against one of the best defensive lines in college football. That's what you take away. Bo Jackson still scored a touchdown, but he only finished with 55 rushing yards. I mean, that's kind of the difference here. What are you going to take away from the pro-style offense of what Arthur Smith does that maybe could help out, that will elevate the play of Jeremiah Smith, elevate the play of Brandon Inniss, maybe do a little bit of a number when it comes to Bo Jackson running the football? Who's to say? What do you do with the tight end positions? Another thing that you got to look at. But the personnel is there. I mean, that's really what this is going to come down to, is what adjustments are necessarily made by an offensive coordinator who's not known for his college game. He's known for his NFL game. But the last time that we doubted this, we got Matt Patricia competing for a Broyles Award finisher. That might be the best blessing in disguise. You don't know for sure. So I just think that right now, that probably is where you have the questions, but it's not a concern, I guess would be the right word for it.
And lastly, when it comes to Ohio State, do you think this is the year that Jeremiah Smith is credibly the Heisman winner? I've said it for years. I believe he's the best athlete in the sport, but he's just not gotten the recognition necessarily. What do you feel?
Here's the problem. So I can just tell you this from the Alabama perspective of things, because I remember when Devonta Smith won the Heisman Trophy. When Devonta Smith won the Heisman Trophy, he won it because of you lost Jalen Waddle to a torn ACL middle of the year, and he was really the only weapon that Mac Jones could throw to. So all of the numbers that we were witnessing with, hey, Mac Jones being a Davey O'Brien Award winner, a Maxwell finisher, being a Heisman finalist, you could benefit off of that because of what you had at that wide receiver spot. If Julian Sayin is throwing the football and he gets 43 touchdowns and he has over 4,800 passing yards and his completion percentage is still one of the highest in college football and his passer rating is through the roof, Jeremiah Smith may catch 13 touchdowns, but it's 13 out of 43. So it's yeah, he's the best player in the game. And I agree with you. You put him in the NFL tomorrow. Is anybody beating him? Is anybody even going to consider him not to be the most sought after prospect? Probably not. The skill set's through the roof, and it's what makes him probably the most dangerous player with the football in his hands. But most of the voters don't care about the production or the impact of one player if it's not the quarterback spot. That's why it's a quarterback-driven award. You can look at some of the biggest names in the industry. I thought last season, the most complete player and the most impactful player to their team was Jeremiah Love, probably when it came to just the overall identity. Or you could throw out Diego Pavia for that instance. Diego Pavia helped get Vanderbilt to its first 10-win season ever. And you don't have that type of player without him. But quarterback, that's why he finished second over Jeremiah Love. I think Jeremiah Smith absolutely belongs in New York City. I think Jeremiah Smith absolutely belongs to win the Biletnikoff every single year. I think Jeremiah Smith belongs to call himself a Heisman Trophy finalist. Unfortunately, if Julian Sayin has 50-plus touchdowns and not all 50 go towards Jeremiah Smith, he's not winning the award. It's just the bottom line.
It's Throwing a pebble into the ocean, potentially.
I will say, I think next year will be the one season where I'm not buying all my stock into Ohio State offensive players going to the Big Apple. Because I do have my questions when it comes to Arthur Smith. I don't question Ohio State as a playoff team. Ohio State is going to go to the playoff next season at 10-2, 11-1, or 11-2 because they lose in the Big Ten championship, or 13-0. They will be in the playoff. I'm not worried about that whatsoever because it's Ohio State. But I do have to question, simply because of what I know for the play designs, the concepts, and how bad things were at times in Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Arthur Smith as the hire, you pique my interest. It's not always a good thing, though.
And sometimes with a younger developing quarterback, saying you have a primary read and you need to force feed that guy, sometimes that can go awry. Granted, Sayan's got a year under his belt. He's a veteran at this point, but wait and see. We are still waiting on TJ Pittinger to join us later on the show.
He's not coming back. I thought he took over
on the Power 2 live on YouTube. But right now, we want to hear from TJ. Give a little love to our friends at Sleeper.
Are already using Sleeper for fantasy and DFS, there's something new you should know about. Sleeper just rolled out Team Picks, a new way to make game-level predictions instead of focusing on individual players. With Team Picks, you're simply choosing outcomes for full games. For example, there's college basketball going on all around us. There's the UEFA Champions League, which I'm going to go and pick today. Make sure that you go check that out. You'll see the matchup listed and the team multiplier next to each team winning or losing. No lineups, no player props, just the teams and the game outcome. It's all laid out very clearly in the app so you can see the matchup, the multipliers, and decide which side you like or don't like. That part's up to you. If you already have the Sleeper app, go check it out in the app. And if you don't, Sleeper still has fantasy, DFS, and team picks all now in one place. Go check them out.
The ghost of TJ. Wait a minute. Is he with us?
It's a ghost.
He's dead. Yeah,
he's dead.
He's dead. We'll hopefully hear from TJ a little bit later on here in the show. Shout out to Eric Vols for life hopping in the chat. We talked about the Volunteers to open up the show. Right now, we're going back to the SEC to talk about Texas and some of the information or rumors that are out there about how Cam Coleman landed with the Longhorns, former Auburn wide receiver who I would say was top 3 wide receiver in the sport last year behind the aforementioned Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. What? Go ahead.
So, yes, from a talent perspective.
Yes.
I don't think I can argue that. From a production perspective,
yes,
he's been wasted.
Well, let's see how it works out at Texas. Basically, the rumor was from an anonymous SEC general manager that Cam Coleman was offered a blank check to attend their school, and he declined it and went to Texas, which not to say that Texas didn't pay him or force him to take a discount of any kind. It sounds like he got a tremendous amount of money for a wide receiver. But what do you think about the blank check concept within NIL here in 2026?
Do I hate it? Absolutely. Is it going to be the new norm of college football? Absolutely. Especially for players like Cam Coleman. Cam Coleman has under 1,300 total receiving yards, barely over 1,300 total receiving yards in his career. In 2 years, he has less than 15 touchdowns. He has under 100 receptions. That should be a total for a player of his caliber for one season. There's 9 players last year who had more touchdowns in one season than he had in his career. There's 13 players who had more receiving yards in their careers than he had, in one season than he has had in his career. And yes, is he not a full-fledged dominant playmaker when it comes to being a wide receiver, as a route runner? Are there things that he can change about his game? Absolutely. But from a skill set, it is very hard to find an alien who's built 6'3", 218 pounds of pure muscle, and can basically go airborne on you at any given moment, drop back and make a one-handed grab that is a jaw-dropping, oh my God, I can't believe he made that play type move. That's what he is. And when you go based off of just skill set and name and balance and overall identity, you're going to get paid a lot of money. Like Nick Harbor still could have gotten at least a significant pay grade if he went to the open market.
Sure.
Somebody will say the problem was the offense they ran at South Carolina. The problem was he was working with a quarterback that wasn't accurate. We're going to give him a superstar quarterback. We're going to give him a difference maker. We're going to give him a guy and put him in an offensive personnel where he can't afford to lose. So he's maybe not won't get the blank check, but he's going to be one of the most sought after wide receivers on the market. And the same thing goes for tight ends and running backs because of you were wasted. If you're a big name and you were one of the most high profile figures coming out of school when you were, back in high school, you're going to get viewed that way. And the one caveat that I will throw in when it comes to Texas, that they have an advantage over everybody else. Texas has a concept of working with transfer portal wide receivers. Look at their last two big-time additions. A.D. Mitchell came on in from Georgia. He was very underwhelming for the Bulldogs as a wide receiver one. He ends up becoming the X factor and the backbone of Texas passing game. Go the next season, Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden was a fine receiver at the University of Houston. He ends up going to Texas. He ends up thriving for Texas. Comes up in the biggest moment in a gotta-have fourth down call on overtime against Arizona State. He's part of the reason they win the game. He becomes a first-round pick. So Steve Sarkisian has this crutch of saying, my guys end up panning on out when they make it to the NFL because they fit in my offense. You're better suited to come here. He could have offered a blank check. Or I could have said, I'm offering you this amount of money and you can take it or leave it. But the money that you're going to get paid because of you're in the system will end up multiplying at the next level. Either way, he got to have that, and that big Texas brand, they don't lose out to players that they want. It's why Hollywood Smothers committed to Alabama and then said, you know what? Better yet, let me just take a visit down here knowing I'm probably signing on the dotted line.
I am happy to say that here on the Power 2, we are not losing out on a day without TJ Pittinger. He turns up like a bad penny, kind of like Mike Norvell in Tallahassee. Courtside in Tallahassee.
Just can't get rid of him.
Why are you out of your cage? Who let the lock off?
Back.
The biggest thing about Texas, though, I don't know if you guys talked about this because I was getting in the house. I didn't see this part of the show yet. Does it show the commitment to, we've got to go win? I wish they've always got, but the money investment is the expectation has to be to go deep into the playoff, right? Anything, Cole, would you say anything less than the semifinal maybe feels like, even if they go, 12-1 and lose a fluke game in the first round? I mean, yeah, that's different. But anything less than the semifinal feels like I don't want to call it a failure, but a pretty big investment to not get a lot done.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. The main one I would say is I think that you'd be okay going 10-2 as long as you went to the semifinals. I think if you went 13-0 and then lose in the second round, because if you don't have that first game and you lose the bye, like 7 other teams have in the last 2 years, it'd be a lost season in their eyes. But no, I mean, they're Texas. They're not going to get outbid. They're not going to get outgained. They get to pick and choose who they want on their roster. They're going to land whatever recruit they think is the best fit for them outside of maybe Ohio State and Georgia. They're going to be able to afford whoever the hell they want. And they're going to flex their muscles and say, we know that we have deep pockets. We know that we are the state school. And we know that now that that SEC logo is a part of our name, it's going to be a part of our brand, and we're going to kick your ass with it. So, yeah, I mean, Texas is definitely not going to lose out on players that they coveted. And it was very clear from the get-go. They coveted Cam Coleman. They want to get a proven wide receiver number one to come into the building and elevate the passing attack of what you have with Arch Manning and Ryan Wingo. And they got that. And it feels like that as long as he is able to get better and more refined as a route runner, you would probably say Jeremiah Smith and maybe Malachi Tony are the only two receivers you're taking over Cam Coleman. And even still, I would make the argument that maybe only Jeremiah Smith from a talent perspective is the only wide receiver I'm taking over Cam Coleman.
I don't know how long you guys have gone on this. Is it time to talk about Morris, or we still got more on this?
I think with Texas, just to round out that conversation, the amount of money simply you're putting into three guys on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know if it's the money necessarily. I think it's more the Arch Manning window. Because if it goes by and Arch Manning goes to the National Football League and they don't even sniff the semifinal, I feel like it's going to be a poor reflection on Steve Sarkisian. And it's been odd in that we heard the rumors that he could be going off to the National Football League this past season. And maybe that's some unrest in Austin, hoping that he's not quite getting us where we want to go, that sort of thing. I feel like if they don't get to the semifinal this year, at least, it will be a disappointment. And if I'm not mistaken, would Arch be able to play in 2027? Would he be eligible?
He still has another year.
Yeah, so he would have another year. So like you're weighing that possibility of Arch not staying for his final season. So it is kind of all in this year, hoping that he sticks around. And Arch also seems to have a really good relationship with the program, the university, all that sort of stuff. And his families continue to say, like, yeah, he's there to play football and become a pro, but he's also there to get an education. So this family, I think, looks on that experience differently than some other players might. There's nothing wrong with whatever option you choose, but I could see Arch staying for the entirety of his eligibility at Texas. But he should reasonably treat this on a year-by-year basis. If he plays to the level that people hope he can this year, the expectations have been crazy from day one with Arch. But if he can play to a level that is satisfactory to be like, that's what we were hoping for, then he should credibly consider going to the NFL in the 2027 draft. But he still has that option in his back pocket. So, yeah, it's a lot of money invested, specifically in the three guys we just talked about on offense. But bigger questions on defense, questions along the offensive line going into this year. I don't think there's any slam dunk that Texas is in the semifinal. They have a good chance at it, but it's all wait and see.
This is kind of an impromptu. We can do this quickly. I'm throwing you guys a curveball. How many teams, Nate, timestamp this because we might pull something from it. How many teams in college football this year, let's list them, let's name them. Is it semifinal or bust for the 2026 season? So, like, we just said Texas is part of that. I mean, not like they're going to fire their coach, but it's just like the season is a failure if you don't make the semifinal. Right. I'd put Ohio State there. I put Notre Dame there.
That'd be fun.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas. I think it's too soon to put LSU there.
I agree. If they went to the playoffs and won 2 games and then, that would make the semifinals. So, yeah, I take that back. If they went to the playoff and won a game or got a bye, I think they'd be fine.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you put Ole Miss there simply because of what you're going to lose with Kewan Lacey and Trey Chambers next year?
I don't because the SEC
because that's the reason.
I don't because the SEC is just so wide open. And you went to the semifinal last year. So in P. Golding's first year, like if they get in as, like the 10 seed again or whatever they were, 7 or 8, and or no, they were 10, or not 8 or 9 or something. But if they win a game and then lose to a better team, they won a game against Tulane this year. I don't know how much credit you really want for that. And then the win against Georgia was huge. So, I think you bought yourself a little. I don't think their fans would view it as a failure. Okay. They might if they're 11-1 going into the thing, but if they're 10-2, they barely get. I don't know. I wouldn't put Ole Miss there. Georgia and Texas would be the only SEC teams I'd put there.
Just put Notre Dame in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Notre Dame,
Ohio State.
I don't know. Indiana's bought itself a year. No, you know who? I'll tell you, Miami.
I don't know if Miami is. Here's my thought on Miami. If they, no, maybe they are because their expectation needs to be to win the ACC this year. And so they're probably going to be a top 4 seed because of that, because their out of conference is trash. It's not going to be a situation where they win the conference, but then have 2 tough out of conference losses Florida and Notre Dame or something. They do play at Notre Dame, but that's the only game out of conference they play. So they're probably going to be a top seed, a top 5 seed. And so if they're a top 5 seed, those are really easy games. You're either playing the group of 5 or you have a bye, which means you need to win 1 playoff game to get to the semifinal. I don't know that it would be the season was a failure if they could win the ACC for the first time that they've been in the conference, but they're on the borderline to me. I was thinking about them.
I would also throw Oregon in the conversation because Oregon also, I think you have to remind yourself of Dante Moore came on back. You also have Evan Stewart. You still have a solid run game. You went out in the portal and you brought in difference makers on the defensive side. Coy Parrish is coming on in. And here's the other thing that I don't think that we spend enough time talking about. Everyone mentions Caitlin DeBoer has done less with more. So-and-so has done less with more. You want to know who else has done less with more? Dan Lanning to a certain degree. He has a roster every year built to win a national title, and they've yet to go to the national title. They win the Big Ten in year one and get mollywopped by Ohio State the second time around. They win against a James Madison team that they were expected to beat. They beat a Texas Tech team that they're expected to beat, and then they get destroyed by Indiana. And if I'm going to hold Alabama to the same standard of saying, we don't care, we're Alabama, that script A is more powerful than that IU logo, the same thing should go for Oregon.
I mean, mentioning Alabama, yeah, I think I don't know that I expect Alabama to go to the semifinals, but I know their fans won't be happy with anything less than a semifinal appearance.
I also think, I don't know if the expectation would be the semifinal, but if I'm a Texas Tech fan,
Or
I'm
booster.
expecting you win the Big 12, and I'm expecting you win a playoff game.
A playoff game, yes.
A playoff.
So here's the caveat. The expectation should be semifinal if they get the first round bye.
Correct.
If they don't get the first round bye, just winning a playoff game. What it is that you have to have a playoff win.
I think that the Miami story is curious because of the pieces they lose along the defensive line. Let's not underscore or understate how important that is. Texas Tech also is losing some significant pieces to the National Football League that got them to the dance last year. So, yeah, I feel like there's 4, which makes sense for the semifinal. You're like, yeah, it should be Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, and Notre Dame that have that as a mile marker, so to speak. Everybody else, it's kind of wait and see. I think if LSU makes it to the semifinal, people in Baton Rouge are doing backflips. If they make it into the playoff, they're going to be probably satisfied, and it all depends on how they perform at that point. Ole Miss and Indiana, because of the runs you had last year and the change, especially with Ole Miss, the change of quarterback that Indiana's got, I think making the playoff is going to be important to them. And there will probably be that hope, of course, from the fan bases that is like, hey, it'd be great if you got back to the semifinal, the national championship game. But at Indiana, you're playing with house money, man. Like, you just figured out that you had a football team within the last year or two, for crying out loud, most of these fans. So you're like, oh, yeah, if we make the playoff and lose, it's like, okay, we had a national championship team last year. Our cup runneth over. Same thing with Ole Miss to a degree. Like, last year was the best team in school history. So now it's Golding's team. So if there was less success, you would probably understand it. But if you eclipse what you did last year, then Pete Golding's the man.
I agree. I agree with those big 4, although I do think Oregon and Alabama are
Would you throw Miami
really close.
too?
Who?
Miami?
I'd almost have tiers. So those big 4, then I'd have Oregon and
Bama,
and then I'd have another tier down with Miami, and then I have another tier down with like Ole Miss, LSU.
You know who I'd throw in there? I'd throw Michigan in there too. I think Michigan's expectation.
Semifinal?
No, just to be a playoff.
Yeah, playoff for sure.
Playoff team, sure.
But not, I wouldn't say semifinal for Michigan.
If it's okay, I'd like to respond to Eric Vols. Life. Thank you for contributing $10 to @CollegeFootballAddiction, the YouTube channel, the home of the greatest podcast in college football, the Power 2. Can you guys please admit that the Vols are the real UT, because Texas wouldn't be a state without Tennessee, hence the Volunteers. I love the historical reference. As someone who lives here in the state of Tennessee, I can sympathize with that. However, a very brief search tells me that the University of Texas was established, 1883. Meanwhile, University of Tennessee, 1794 is Blunt.
But he's saying the state. There would be no state of Texas to have a university.
Right, have a university. Yeah, I think you do have to make that argument, I guess. Oof.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that. It's based on history, not on sport. I love it.
Who fits more in their stadium?
Tennessee.
Yeah,
Tennessee. Yeah.
It's Rocky Top then to me.
Oh my God, no! You're gonna have the Texas person lose his freaking mind here. Okay, let's do this then. Let's have this freaking conversation because we have
lost the Alamo. I mean,
when you volunteer to come on down to Texas, you volunteer the right to call yourself UT. That's the way I view it.
Yeah, but Texas tried to leave the United States, for crying out loud.
Texas is not trying to leave the United States.
They did try to leave the United States. They wanted to be their own country at one point.
No, we still have the right to be our own country. That's the
But you're
problem.
not your own country.
No, we're the Republic of Texas. There's not the Republic of Tennessee.
I can be the Republic of Tom, but it doesn't make me a republic, does it?
You chose to volunteer to come on down to Texas and help defend the Alamo. You volunteered to give us UT. You know what? This is a dumb point, and you know we can just argue this over when you two play against each other, UT versus UT later on this season. The winner has to go by UT, and the loser goes by the University of Texas and the University of Tennessee. I will say Neyland Stadium is a legit stadium. I think it's better than DKR.
So I was looking at I try to go to one game a year that Florida State doesn't play in just because it's fun to watch stress-free football. It's fun to watch football not coached by Mike Norvell. So I, in looking at bye weeks and when Florida State's off and when that would line up and work, the Texas-Tennessee weekend up in Neyland was a really, like, of all the games I could feasibly make it to, was a really good one. So we'll see. Eric, thank you for the contribution. All right, Chandler Morris. We can't, big picture. I don't want to upset people with this, but I don't care. I had a buddy that quoted the story that Nakos dropped or Dellinger dropped or whoever broke the news, and said, I guess self-respect just isn't a thing anymore. Is that too much? Is that overboard? But like with guys playing 7, 8, 9 years now, I saw some guys playing, going into his 9th year, like, and I get the size. So I do think there's, from one aspect, that is a little overboard because yes, if somebody was going to continue to pay me 7 figures and all I had to do was file a lawsuit and play another year, I would try for that next one because that's a good financial decision. But like, come on, man, are we just to the most? And we'll talk about Morris and what his options are and just different things in just a moment. But like, it's so ridiculous right now. All of it is so dumb to me.
I mean, the story at Montana is the worst one. I forget the name of the player, but applying for a 9th year of eligibility. We had the Joey Aguilar story, which we talked about earlier on in the show, trying to get a 6th year. Chandler Morris. I just want to say this, like, was Chandler Morris all that good last year?
Like, you want to know why? Not to take this political, because that we're not that show, but unemployment rates are probably the problem with unemployment rates are the fact that college kids won't stop playing college sports. Like, right. we could fix the unemployment rate if guys would just go to FedEx.
Jiffy Lube's hiring, baby.
Amazon needs the drivers, guys.
I understand people are going to try and connect the dots of Chandler Morris going to Clemson. And you also have to sit there as a reasonable person looking at Dabo Swinney, who might be entering his last year at Clemson, and saying, is this really going to fix it? Is this a Hail Mary, having your new offensive coordinator call up his son and be like, hey, I think we should sue. I think we should try and get you another eligibility because you're 16 touchdowns and 9 interceptions and 5 rushing touchdowns last year at Virginia in the ACC. Boy, we want to bring that to Clemson, and that's going to right the ship better than anything Cade Klubnik could have ever done. Like, what is wrong with Clemson football if this is somehow the play? And the answer is a lot. But Chandler Morris, like, I didn't even realize he had played for Oklahoma in the pandemic, TCU, North Texas, and then UVA. Like, dude, you're not going to play in the NFL. I get it. You're trying to maximize your earning potential right now. Give it a shot up in Canada, man. Give it a shot in the UFL if you want to, or somewhere along the way, get a degree and get a job like the rest of us.
Probably got 3 degrees by this point. I mean, he can't go back to Virginia, can he? I mean, not that he can't. But like,
if you do, what are you doing? You're battling with Bo Pabula and with Eli Holstein?
Yeah, there's 3 quarterbacks there, and I think he might be the 3rd best one.
He is the 3rd
best. He is the 3rd best one.
Yeah, it's not an argument.
I'm going to tell myself on it to be nice.
Yes, you go after him. I mean, hell, we already know that they need the quarterback right now. Here's my thing. Here's where you lose me with Chandler Morris. Lincoln Riley was the head coach at Oklahoma when he was a freshman. That's all I need to say for you to be in college too long.
Yeah.
It's not an insult. Like, I understand. You want to continue to play because you know that your NFL career is not going to go the way that you believe it is. You want to continue to play because you want to earn NIL. I get all that. And unfortunately, this is the world that we live in when we open up Pandora's box and say, hey, Diego Pavia, you're going to get an extra year of eligibility. Hey, Trinidad Chambliss, you found a medical waiver. You're going to get an extra year of eligibility. Joey Aguilar, you're going to sue to try and get an extra year of eligibility. Like, this is the problem that we open with this stuff. The thing that I don't agree with is Chandler Morris was at a Power 4 school 3 different times. He went to TCU, and he lost out to Josh Hoover, and Hoover beat him and got the starting job. And then he goes to UNT to better his stock. And then he goes to Virginia because for some reason they gave him a 6-year of eligibility with the COVID waiver. So just because you redshirted and you couldn't get on the field doesn't mean that you get to play 4 years. The difference is, in my opinion, is like the Joey Aguilar thing is that he followed the same approach as Diego Pavia with the JUCO route. With Trinidad Chambliss, he medically redshirted at Division II. Like, that's the difference here. Chandler Morris just couldn't get on the field. But unfortunately, when you open up the door for all these guys to get an extra year of eligibility, you're going to do everything in your power to try to make sure that you get an extra year of eligibility.
Yeah, it's never going to end. And Morris's situation, I mean, he had a knee injury. So from the ESPN article, Morris sought a medical redshirt for the 2022 season while with TCU after he dealt with a knee injury that he said significantly impacted his mental health. Morris was injured in the season opener against Colorado and lost his starting job, can't read, to Max Dugan, who went on to lead the Horned Frogs, the College Football Playoff and National Championship game. So I don't know, man. Like, you got to play, you'd already redshirted, like, it is tough, man. But like, I don't mean to make light of this at all. I take this very seriously from a personal level. But how far away from guys saying, "Oh, I had mental health problems during this one season, and so I need another year of eligibility." You know, like I was struggling with different things. Like, we're not that far away. And I'm not trying to make light of any kind of mental health or the seriousness that we give to those situations. But how far away are we from saying, man, I had anxiety in 2023. I need another year. I'm telling you that's coming. And I'm not like the doom and gloom, like the whole thing. But like the more you continue to hand out waivers like candy or win lawsuits and, you know, a Mississippi judge may view things one way and a Virginia judge may view things another way. And if he was going to Clemson, I'd have filed this thing in South Carolina and got one of those guys to rule in my favor. But I don't know, man. If he gets another year, great. You know, we'll talk about it. It'll be content. But, like, it does just seem out of control right now. I also, like, I understand it with Joey. I don't know about fighting this battle for Chandler Morris. No offense. I mean, beat FSU. So many fans get mad.
Again, like, there's so many layers to it. Like, if this is indeed his dad, Chad, the offensive coordinator now through the good old boys club with Dabo at Clemson, if this is kind of Clemson saying, like, hey, you know, if you win this, we'll take you. Like, that doesn't bode well for Clemson this upcoming year. Like, what is wrong with Clemson at its core? A lot. Like I said before, there's a ton we could get into there. But I really think, like, not to cut you off, Cole, but, like, I really think we need to get to the point where we've talked about it for years. Like, you have 5 years to play 4. There needs to be an age restriction because you have 18 to 23 years old. That's your window to play. Now, if you're approaching 24, 25, 26, 27, the kid out of Montana, not a kid, he's a human being, he's an adult at this point. Like, there's a difference in what you're playing. And when you're that age, you're probably playing in the National Football League. And that's why it's the National Football League. It is the highest level of the sport. There's still a developmental level to this game, but it doesn't make sense to have a virtual 10-year age gap between certain guys. The legitimate professional level, yeah, you understand it. But at the semi-professional level, no.
Here's my thing. How do we know this is actually Clemson? We don't. Like we don't. What we know is that Chandler Morris is Morris's dad, who just got hired as the offensive coordinator, and you don't have Kate Klubnik back at Clemson. I'm not saying that because it's just like, you know, Dabo of all the people, he plays within the rule books more often than anybody else because he's willing to go ahead and call you out. So it would feel like that this would be a move to where he is going about it this way. More so because of it would be like, why would I be making these things? I think it's more so Chandler Morris realizes I'm not going to be playing in the NFL. I'm not going to be playing in the UFL. I'm not going to make enough money to continue to play football unless I go the college route. I want to do everything in my power to continue to play in college, whether that be at SMU, whether that be at Tennessee, Missouri, Utah State, whatever it is. I just want to get paid to play in college. I think that's more so it, and that's the problem. it's not a Clemson thing. It's I opened up Pandora's box and saw everybody else get paid to go play in college football. Why can't I get paid to go play in college football?
Which I think I understand, and I can make jokes about it and say that it's ridiculous and all those things because I can't, like, it's not impacting me personally. Like, I can't go try and play in college football and make money. If I was in their situation, I'd do the same thing because what's the worst you have to lose? A little bit of self-respect. People forget about it next week when Lane Kiffin does something dumb or just whatever, right? Like, it doesn't.
Oh no, I'm not gonna be able to play in college anymore. Oh wow, this is my lasting impact being a subpar quarterback. And now I'm not going out.
Cool. Give it a shot in the CFL. Listen, you can make $60,000 a year. It's better than a lot of people make in this country. Considering
$60,000 a year versus $150,000 in college.
I understand the short-term gain, but at least like my co-host on State of Penn State football show, wherever you get your podcast, is Tommy Stevens, and he just won a Grey Cup last year with the Saskatchewan Roughriders as the backup quarterback. He's been playing in the league for I think 4 years now. He was playing in the National Football League before that as a 7th-round draft pick. Like, there's still a path. There's still a path.
Let's talk a little bit about top 10 coaches. Let me get this added to the scene and see if we can get it over. All right, we'll talk about a couple of different ones, and then I don't know if you guys ranked yours or.
I haven't.
All right, let's go. All right, here's Pate's thoughts on this top 10, what you like, you don't like, and then we'll look at Klatz real quick, and then we'll talk about ours.
Cole, I defer to you. I want to look up what his 3-year rolling blend of criteria is.
Which I will say, before we get going, I like that he's, you may hate his ratings, you may not. I do like that he puts some kind of metric around, like, here's how I came up with this. Because what I'm about to do is vibes. So, like, I like that Pate is at least somewhat analytical. Now, you may hate the way he calculates it. You may hate a lot of different things. But I do like that because I'm about to give y'all some vibes in a minute.
Okay.
For me, the big takeaway is, are we talking about 3 years moving forward or 3 years overall? Like, including the last 3 years?
Like, the last 3 years, I think, is the way he pushes it.
And why is Marcus Freeman behind Dan Lanning? Marcus Freeman's been to a national championship.
Yeah, I agree.
Marcus Freeman has been able to get to double-digit win seasons. I get it, playing in a relaxed schedule because they don't have a conference. But still, Marcus Freeman has won multiple playoff games, just like Dan Lanning. Like, I'm sorry.
Maybe the Big Ten championship is the only thing, the win against Ohio State.
That's all it is. But for me, Marcus Freeman definitely belongs there. I think Mario Cristobal's too low. Listen, I understand that we could throw in the fact that Mario was underwhelming when he went 10-2 during and missed the college football playoff a year ago. But he's one of 5 coaches that can say in the last 4 years, I have been to a national championship. That should be a little bit higher in my opinion. Steve Sarkisian, I understand, kind of falls in that category. Kalen DeBoer, are you because like the thing is that when I hear about Kalen DeBoer is, would you take Steve Sarkisian or Kalen DeBoer? Because if you're going to say I would take Kalen DeBoer, okay, is that because of he's been to a national championship? Yes, right. Then why is Mario Cristobal below a guy who hasn't been to a national championship? Like, the criteria just feels like it's all over the place. Lane Kiffin, are we going based off of recency bias or are we going based off of consistency? Because consistency, yeah, Lane has 30-plus wins in the last 3 years. And I do believe that he belongs in that conversation of a top 6 coach. But we also have to throw him in the fact that Kalen DeBoer has been to a national title appearance and a conference title appearance. Lane Kiffin has not. Mario Cristobal has been to a national title appearance. Lane Kiffin has not. Steve Sarkisian has been to a college football playoff. Lane Kiffin has led his team to the college football playoff, but he hasn't coached in the college football playoff. Mike Elko has coached in the college football playoff. So it's, what are the overall addendum criteria that you look for? That's what I went into mind. 3-year approach and also the trajectory of where I think each program is going. I think that plays a role.
Tom, I don't know if you have any thoughts on Pate, but just so we don't extend this segment out real long, I'll show you Klatz and see if you have any thoughts on his.
Yeah, everybody's pretty much in consensus that Cignetti, Day, and Smart are the top of the heap. And again, Lanning ahead of Freeman here, I agree with Cole. I don't understand that, considering Freeman's actually been to a national championship game. I think Mario Cristobal should get some more love, especially what happened last year. Going to Pate's list, I don't understand why some coaches are even on this list. How many years has DeBoer been in Alabama?
2.
How many years has Lane Kiffin been at LSU?
3 months.
And what was the other one on this list? The bottom of the list was Mike Elko. Is it 2 years or 3
2
years?
years.
2 or 3?
2.
2. So shouldn't you automatically be disqualified if you haven't served 3 years consecutively at the school that's being
Well, that would take Cignetti out.
because then it's like remove the brand. You're just talking about the human being. Because like LSU has no place on this list. Lane Kiffin, what did he accomplish?
I mean, he has the second most wins in the SEC among active coaches.
Cool. That's great. But it's like, are we ranking LSU as a program? Because according to this 3-year blend of the following on-field results lean to recency bias, talent acquisition and development, culture plus organizational strength, slight predictive element. So this is entirely predictive element with LSU because you're going.
I guess the question would be, do you think Lane alone, program aside, do you think Lane's
alone as a human being, yes, is a top 10 coach in the sport? Where I would put him on this list, I struggle because, again, I think making and competing for a national championship game matters. I think Mario Cristobal, Kalen DeBoer, and Marcus Freeman should be 4, 5, and 6 on this list because that's the objective in this. I really think for some reason we all fall asleep on Kirby Smart. I really don't understand it. I think Kirby Smart is the best coach in the sport. I think he is going through a lot of the changes that many SEC coaches are experiencing, where it's like, hey, we're not the dominant force in the sport anymore. We're getting poached a little bit more than we're used to. We're not the big bullies on the block. And you can feel Kirby Smart adjusting as that goes, but he's still putting high-performing teams on the field on a regular basis. Ryan Day, I love the quote by Jim Harbaugh. He was born on third base. He did win a national championship.
But he did win a national championship.
He did win a national championship. I don't put him ahead of Kirby Smart.
I agree with that. Okay, so let's do ours. Let's do ours. Who wants to go?
I'll go Kirby, Day, Cignetti. Oh, man. I think DeBoer's accomplishment at Washington is more significant in terms of making the national championship from the now dead Pac-12. So I'll put him at 4. And then I will go Cristobal because I think he had a better team than what Marcus Freeman had in the national championship game last year. So I'll go Cristobal at 5, Freeman at 6. And then I'll go Kiffin at 7, Sarkisian at 8, Elko at 9, and Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning, again, it's all potential. It's just he's not gotten to that point. Like, yes, has he developed a good culture and has he developed guys and organizational strength? Yeah. Also, like, this is a vibes thing. This is a vibes Pate list. Yeah. So I don't dislike Josh Pate. I know everybody's coming at him recently. I like him, but I just think this is a vibes list. So I put Dan Lanning. I think I give Dan Lanning a little bit more credit, but if you haven't competed for a national championship, you wind up somewhere between 7 and 10 in my book.
All right, so number 1 for me is Kirby Smart. Sorry, he just is. You can argue whatever you want. He has 2 national championships. Number 2 is Ryan Day. Number 3 is Kirk Cignetti. I think for most people that's a fair list because if you have 4 active coaches right now with national championships, these are 3 of them, and one's not Dabo Swinney. So those are my 3. 4 is Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman's been to a national title game. Marcus Freeman nearly beat Ryan Day last year in the national title game, and he has a team that consistently is going to be with 10-plus wins and going to the college football playoff. Number 5 is Mario Cristobal. He's a great recruiter. He's a great developer of talent. He's got the NIL ducks in a row, and I think that he was very good at Oregon. I think a lot of people forget about his time at Oregon. They only think about his time at Miami. He turned the tide at Miami enough to where now we're viewing them as a legitimate threat year in and year out. Number 6 is where it gets a little interesting for me. I do go Steve Sarkisian. And the reason why is because if he has won a conference title, remember, he won a Big 12 title before they went to the SEC. He's been to 2 college football playoff semifinal appearances, and he also has played in the SEC title game just like Kalen DeBoer, who comes in for me at number 7. Kalen DeBoer has been to a national title game. Kalen DeBoer has won a Pac-12 title. He has been to a college football playoff semifinal, and he's 6-2 against Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian, and somebody else I'm blanking on. I don't remember who it is. Kirk Cignetti. That's it, 6-2. So he wins games consistently at that standpoint. And you also have to include the fact that he did win when he was at Fresno State. Number 8 is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's never been to a conference title game, but he was able to go consistently to 10-plus wins at Ole Miss. In my opinion, he's the greatest Ole Miss coach to ever live. He has he's the second most wins in the SEC during a 3-year gap. That has to count for something. Number 9 is Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning, again, has won a conference title. He has been to a college football playoff semifinal, and he does have an undefeated season. That has to include something, and he constantly is turning out numbers.
That's fair.
And the name that gets constantly lost in translation that needs more respect, as much as I do believe Mike Elko could fight for this spot, as much as I believe Joey McGuire could fight for this spot, Kalani Sitake deserves a lot of respect for what he's done at BYU. But I go Kyle Whittingham. Kyle Whittingham is a proven winner. Kyle Whittingham has constantly been able to hit above his weight class at Utah. Kyle Whittingham constantly has been thrown to the wayside because of the program he coaches at. And he's turned down better jobs in years past to stay with Utah because if he's wanted to bring it to its highest peak. And now he's going to go to a place like Michigan that will give him the resources that he could only dream of in Salt Lake City. He's going to a place that is going to give him a short leash, but a winnable leash to go out on top. And I think that when you look at the margin of error for him, what he's been able to accomplish, we talk about less with more. Who's done more with less than Kyle Whittingham throughout his entire tenure during his tenure at Utah? I mean, that's a coach that constantly wins and now is getting a shot to finally be at a premier school. So I think Kyle Whittingham, until further notice, belongs in that conversation.
I think this would be really interesting if we did it on, because I do agree. Like, I think pound for pound, Kalani Sitake is a top 10 coach in this sport. But it's really hard to compare the guy at BYU right now to the guy at Georgia and the guy at Ohio State and these guys with like serious hardware and trophies and stuff like that. But like, I think if you gave Kalani Sitake, like, I don't know that his personality would necessarily fit in this place, but if you gave Kalani Sitake like LSU's resources and recruiting ground and things like that, like I think pound for pound, he's as good, if not I'll just say as good of a coach as Lane Kiffin. So that's why I think this is so hard. And same thing you just mentioned. I think there are guys who are excellent coaches that are just in positions that are harder to win. Maybe the caveat to that or the devil's advocate to that is we just saw a guy win in Indiana. So maybe you can, kind of win anywhere. But anyway, so just a big picture thought. I think there are a lot of guys that fit that mold like Sitake and Elko. I think Josh Heupel is a really, really good coach. But it's Tennessee. They haven't won as much. They did go to the playoff the one time. Like they haven't, the big game and they did beat Alabama. But again, if you put Josh Heupel in, whatever, Alabama or in, again, would he work in Ohio State? No, but like anybody can work at Ohio State if they, so like if you put him on third base, like what does that look like? Do I think Ryan Day is a massively better coach than Josh Heupel? Not really. Like I think where you are matters a ton for how good of a coach we view you right now. All that said, my top 5 is pretty much the same as Cole's. I'll flip Kurt and Day. I do buy into the born on third base narrative. So Kirby, Kurt, Ryan Day, Marcus Freeman, Mario Cristobal, easy top 5 for me. I am so on I have 4 SEC coaches or 3 SEC coaches and Dan Lanning next. I don't know that I feel super strongly about any of them being ahead of the other ones. Like I think 6 through 9 for me of Sark, DeBoer, Lane, and Lanning can be put in any order and I wouldn't feel bad about it at all. Like I think that's just kind of your next 4. And then your 9, I'll go Sitake there, but I think Kyle Whittingham makes a lot of sense. I think Josh Heupel makes a lot of sense there. I think Mike Elko makes a lot of sense there. There are really underrated coaches like, Brett Bielema, who I think has done a phenomenal job at Illinois, who I'm not going to put in my top 10, but like they're just almost playing a different game. Clark Lee could be way high on this list.
Kirk Ferentz, baby.
Ferentz could be way high.
Reliable.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. He was the first name off the list for me.
Yeah. They're guys that are just, but you're not comparing Lee to Mario and Freeman because he's not played in the same kind of games, So that's why I think we could also do like an underrated list with this thing too. Like, who are the guys that didn't make our list that are actually elite coaches? I think Sitake.
Are we on Wednesday or next week?
Tune back in.
Come back to the UT argument from a historical standpoint. Just because the state of Tennessee sent volunteers to the Alamo to help out the state of Texas, doesn't it matter that they lost at the Alamo? Like, you sent help, but did it matter? So who's the real UT?
Eric's not gonna like that.
You guys celebrate a loss.
We're here to help. We've all been killed.
Well, everyone's dead. We're the reason Davy Crockett.
John. Thanks.
We're the reason Davy Crockett is only a folklore.
All right. Thank you guys for filling in for me today, as I was late coming back from Tallahassee.
We got you, buddy.
But make sure you are subscribed.
Tallahassee, courtside. Ooh.
Dude, it was kind of fun. So, okay, I'll tell you a little story.
Nobody
cared. Nobody say what?
Did you win?
Did I won by sitting courtside? So
okay,
that's all that matters. I sit down and my buddy's like, "Oh yeah, hey man, like thanks for coming by." I'm like, "Oh yeah, this was a tough sell to get me down here." But there's a guy sitting like 2 over from us, and my buddy taps me on the shoulder and was like, "Hey, that guy played on Bobby's first team in 1976."
Oh wow.
And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And he was like, and then he was like on the board of trustees. He's been, worked with the boosters board and stuff like that, just different thing. And I was like, "Man, that's really cool. We should get him on the show." And he's like, "Oh, I'll ask him, if he wants to do something with the FSU show or whatever." And like 2 minutes later, he leans over and he goes, "Are you TJ?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I watch every one of your shows, man. That's so cool." So I was like, "No, dude, like, don't tell me I'm cool. Like, you're cool. You played on Bobby's first team. You were on the board of director. Like, don't tell me I'm cool, man. Like, I'm not. I'm a loser. You're cool." So anyway, courtside was fun. Anyway.
And you're a loser, apparently.
Well, I'm not, but the team that I so tragically seem to support typically is. But
is baseball going to be fine this year with Lanker now?
I think they'll be all right. I mean, we'll see. Long way to go.
A super regional loss and then basically right back to square one.
You know what I really feel like about baseball is the expectation is to host a regional. I mean, I think the team, like the program has, but my expectations for baseball are to host a super regional every year or a regional every year.
Yeah.
And then everything past the top 16 is gravy. Like, so, I mean, last year they were the 9 seed and they went out to Oregon State. Had they been the 8 seed, Oregon State would have been traveling to the East Coast and you probably win that series and go to the World Series. But like seeding is so flunky. It's like who's injured at that point, who's hot. Baseball is just weird. I mean, every sport is weird, but like baseball is just all about who gets hot at the end of the year. So I think they'll host a regional and then we'll see from there. That's all I got. Make sure you are subscribed. I do know where Homosassa, Florida is. I'm in Lutz, so not too far from there. But make sure you're subscribed to the Power 2. Appreciate Raymond, appreciate Eric, all those that joined us live. We'll be back probably next Wednesday, unless some crazy stuff happens between now and then. But probably next Wednesday to talk to you guys some more. Thank you guys for tuning into the Power 2. We'll see you soon.